18 to explain the bill.
Been on a journey with this one. Members, this is this bill is a little bit long and do we have a substitute on this? Sorry.
The chair offers committee substitute to HB 218.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The essence of this bill is very simple, even though the language may be a little bit confusing. Right now, we're arresting and prosecuting people for low-level personal use amounts of marijuana. House Bill 218 changes that system to right-size the penalty. This is something that we've passed out of the House twice before, and the system that it creates is one that we have worked directly with the governor's office on the mechanics of how it would work in the real world. We've talked to JPs and constables. We've talked to the attorneys that will be prosecuting. We've talked to frontline law enforcement. We've tried to bring everybody to the table to make sure that the system works and the penalty that we're meting out fits as well, and we're not wasting valuable resources. I want to be very clear, though, this bill is not marijuana legalization. That's another bill going to a different committee. But this would maintain, thank you. This would maintain the illegality of possession of low-level amounts, but would right-size the penalty. Now, we've been talking about the reasons for changing this for years now, so I don't really want to belabor them here. But there are tens of thousands of arrests for personal use possession in Texas annually, and those cost our state hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. Not to mention countless hours of law enforcement and prosecutor time. And they also tag people, mostly young people, with criminal records that create lifelong obstacles to jobs, education, housing, and other opportunities. That's an awful investment and an awful outcome any way you slice it. Functionally, what this bill does is to change all that. Functionally, what we're going to do here is to make possession of a small amount of marijuana a non-arrest Class C offense. It requires courts to give the person who's ticketed deferred adjudication probation, and if the person successfully completes that, expunge the record of the offense upon their request. To be clear, this will not be supervised probation. Basically, the person is given a ticket, goes to court, they're assessed a fine, then the court tells them, you've got 6 months to pay and you need to stay out of trouble during that time. If the person does their part, the court dismisses the charges, and on a request of the individual, deletes the entire record of it. The person walks away lighter in the wallet, but without any criminal record whatsoever. The only difference between this and previous versions of this bill is that it incorporates another effort that we've been working on side by side with this to create parity between leaf cannabis and concentrates. In other words, when someone has a joint or a vape pen, we're going to treat them the same, which isn't the case under the current law, and you'll hear that from your different jurisdictions. The last thing I'd like to add is that the committee substitute is not a substantive change. We just filed a non-council draft initially, and so what you see in front of you is the legislative council version. So there is no substantive difference between the two. I'm happy to answer any questions about the bill. If not, I'll reserve my right to close. I know we do have a handful of witnesses here to testify.
Great, thank you. Members, are there any questions for Chairman Moody?
Just very briefly, Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harrison.
Sorry. Chairman Moody, could you just explain at a very high level the interactions with this bill with the transportation code? Because I mean, obviously, with any changes to marijuana law, nobody wants to be driving high. As I read it, it only looked like it made a small tweak, perhaps, to the requirement to automatically suspend a driver's license. Are there any other transportation code implications here other than that one, which I caught? Or I think I caught.
No. The suspension of the driver's license is one of those collateral consequences that we were trying to remedy that really kind of catch people in a cycle of criminality. And so that's in here. We've, in the past, people get concerned that, boy, we're going to make it harder to arrest folks if they're under the influence. None of those things are changed under this. If that conduct is what you're engaged in, that is still illegal under the law. This doesn't change that whatsoever. This is simple possession.
So no changes other than that driver's license issue.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Chairman.
Any other questions for Chairman Moody? All right, if there are no further questions, we will proceed to testimony.
Thank you, sir.
We have witnesses. Chair calls Jason Vaughn. Chair calls Elizabeth Miller.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm here representing myself in support of this bill.
If you would please state your name.
Elizabeth Miller. Sorry about that. I want to thank everybody for your time and for this fantastic legislation. I want to thank the chairman and his staff, past and present, for your excellent stewardship on this issue. I care a lot about it. It happens to be Rare Disease Day, February 28th. And although each individual diseases may be rare, there's 7,000 of them, so having one is not. 1 in 10 people, some estimates say, I haven't checked the math on that, have a rare disease. And I have something called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos. And because of that, I have been using medical cannabis for medical reasons for a long time, for chronic pain, for some sleep seizure stuff, for some, it helps me with GI and appetite, and it even helps with some autonomic dysfunction. Don't worry, I'll stop, but you get the idea, a lot of reasons. Also, downwind of my EDS, I have some other genetic oddities and issues. One of those is a mast cell issue where if I use flour, I could have a very negative anaphylactic sized response. Not all the time, but it makes flour an unsuitable medicine for me. So I am forced to use a form that falls as a concentrate under current law. So in order to function and sleep and be here in front of you, I have to commit a felony every day, pretty regularly. And I've been saying that under oath now for a while and in front of people and on TV if necessary, because I feel strongly about that. I feel like Texas patients shouldn't have to live in fear. Just the current TCUP program is so narrow, I can't get the sufficient THC in the right form that my body can allow to keep the seizures and the pain enough to be here. So since my illegal use has allowed me to be here in front of you, I feel compelled. I don't have kids. I don't have a bunch of employees that depend on me. So I'm here to tell you there are a lot of patients that live in fear this way, right? And it affects us. And the other thing is I must speak out and note that although I've been doing this for a couple years now on TV and under oath, nobody has come for me, right? So as long as the enforcement is disparate, where a few miles from me, a young brown man didn't even survive a law enforcement interaction over small amounts. His name was Marvin Scott. But I'm still here unbothered, and I'll probably be unbothered. I mean, I don't want anybody to arrest me, but if they do, it could injure me. So I just wanted y'all to know that this still affects patients. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer questions now or later.
Members, any questions for Ms. Miller? Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Thank you.
Mr. Vaughn, the chair calls Amber York.
Good afternoon. How are y'all?
Doing good. If you would please state your name, who you're here on behalf of, and your position on the bill if you're for.
My name is
against,
Amber
or
York.
On the bill.
I'm here to testify in neutral support of House Bill 218.
Neutral or support?
Neutral. I am a child of God, a widow, and a mother of 4. I am here to represent myself, my family, and Healthy Herb Farm. I say neutral because I do support penalty reduction. In fact, I do support full decriminalization of cannabis, or AKA marijuana. I do not support still imposing a fine. These fines are expected to be paid with U.S. currency. That very U.S. currency that states, "In God we trust." In fact, "In God we trust" is the official motto of the United States of America. Motto meaning beliefs or ideals guiding. But How can that be so? Do we really trust in God? He tells us in the Bible that he gave us herbs of the earth for the people, all through Genesis, in Proverbs. He even tells us in Ecclesiastes 38:4 that the Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not arbor them. He also tells us that we are made, created in his image and his likeness, correct? So we're all the same in his eyes. Titles do not matter. We're all the same. We're all his children. But as most of us know, time on this earth is short, it flies by, and we're all called to be kind, caring, and love our neighbors, helping each other through this life. Locking people in cages, causing chaos and ruckus in their life, destroying their families over this God-given plant is not loving each other. It's not caring for each other. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Making people choose between paying a fine for their freedom or buying groceries or basic necessities for themselves is not right, and it's very far from Christ-like. So we have the power to change this, to help these people, but will we? Or will we stand in front of our Maker on Judgment Day and tell him he was wrong? We knew better than he did, and we were locking his people up in cages over a plant that him himself put on this earth to help us. Now, I lost my husband of 18 years at 37 years old. I watched him take his last breath as I held his hand, and his heart stopped beating for the last time. The father of my 4 children and the man I had planned on spending the rest of my life with. He was diagnosed with the final stage of multiple myeloma, bone cancer. He was the strongest man I knew, took very good care of his family. But when he was diagnosed a few days before Thanksgiving, they give him a couple weeks to live. Told him to go home, tell your wife and kids goodbye, do what you need to do for the end of your life. We weren't going to accept that. So we put him on cannabis medicine. We, in fact, had him on the Not So Compassionate Use Act in Texas, and the recommendation was go to another state because what Texas offers is not enough. But he lost his job. He could no longer work. He's fighting for his life, and now we can't just pick up and move to another state. So we can't afford the medicine because of the cost on the Compassionate Use Act. So the only other way is to go to black market. Well, then on the black market, you're risking your freedom. You're risking getting your kids taken away, and you're risking your family being torn apart. If he would have been arrested and thrown in jail, he would have been dead long before the time he was.
Thank you, Ms. York.
Yes.
Just to clarify, you were testifying just on behalf of yourself, correct?
Myself and Healthy Herb Farm, which is a hemp farm in East Texas.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. God bless y'all.
God bless you as well. All right, the chair calls Jason Vaughn.
Hello, my name is Jason Vaughn, and today I'm just representing myself on behalf of HB 218. I wanted to go over, first off,
Can you clarify, are you speaking in support, against, or?
in support.
Okay, thank you.
Wanted to go over, obviously, in support, wanted to talk about a couple potential changes to the bill, if possible. One on, currently, I think it says that it would be up to a 1 ounce for a Class C misdemeanor. The governor has specifically called on 2 ounces for Class C. If that's what the governor's willing to go to, I see no reason for the body not to make that amendment. Another one is on the arrests of it. That's going to be one of the hardest things on this issue consistently. I've worked with a lot of our wonderful police officers around the state, and that is the thing that consistently they have told me is a holdup for them. I like that aspect of the bill, but I just wanted to mention that if it's for me, and I know a lot of people I work with, if that is the hindrance on passing the bill, I would rather that kind of issue be held in Sandra Bland bill and others instead of stopping a bill like this, because it is time we finally get this done. And I greatly appreciate Chairman Moody's work on this over the years, but I will not keep the committee's time beyond that.
Any questions for Mr. Vaughn? Thank you for being here, and thank you for your testimony. All right, next, the chair calls Karen Reeves. Thank you for being here, Ms. Reeves.
Thank you for having me.
Can
My
you
name
give me
is
just- can you
Karen
Give me just
Reeves.
a moment. Yeah,
Okay.
if you would please state your name, who you're here on behalf of, and if you're speaking for, against, or on the bill.
My name is Karen Reeves. I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 218. I'm here representing myself and Syntax Community Outreach. I support reducing penalties for cannabis possession, and this bill definitely is headed in the right direction. I have testified several times in the past sessions. I began advocating for my son. He's was a Marine reservist. He was arrested for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. My son took a felony charge at that time that he did not deserve. Then I came back and I testified on my own behalf, recalling a painful, humiliating story about my own arrest. It happened at the most vulnerable time in my life. At last session, I came back again in front of the Senate, testify on one of Moody's bill that made it that far about what happened to me when I was 18 years old. I witnessed a friend being arrested on felony charges. Now, the conclusion of my son's arrest, his charges were ultimately reduced, and he did do 2 years of probation and paid thousands of dollars in fines and lawyers' fees. Now, at the conclusion of my arrest, I ended up selling my car. I moved within a mile of the school. That happened in 2004. I still do not have a driver license or own a car. Now, after I witnessed my friend being arrested when I was only 18, that was the most impact in my entire life. I was with my friend when he was pulled over. My attitudes about law enforcement changed. I began heavily drinking. I dropped out of college. I still think of those times. I want to come to tears because it changed my life. It estranged me from my family. And these things may not seem very traumatic to you guys sitting here, but when you go through an arrest and you're humiliated in front of God and everybody, and you've been searched, you've been charged, you've been taken to jail, that's something that stays with you for the rest of your life. So I'm here again, and I've testified before. What will happen to me if I'm arrested? What will happen to me if my house is raided? I'm still going to be arrested. I'm still going to be charged, and I'm probably going to be taken to jail. I live in fear every day. I've lived in fear since I was 18. People across the state, thousands of people are going through what I've been through. I'm here. I'm compelled, like others are here today, to continue the fight to reduce these penalties. I would not wish what I've been through in my life on anyone. I'm now a proud teacup patient, but I don't have money to get access to the medicine statewide. But if I were arrested or pulled over in a friend's car, I would have to, I don't know what I would do. Like I said, my health would suffer. I would be devastated financially. And I've just now got a relationship back with my mom since for a long time. You guys are here. I see the compassion in your eyes. We're here today to support Moody, and we want to push this bill forward to the Senate ASAP. We don't want to live in fear anymore. Thank
Mr.
you.
Reeves, thank you for your testimony. If you can, just wait there just a moment. I just want to clarify that your testimony today was simply regarding House Bill 218.
Yes,
No others, correct?
Nope.
Members,
but I'll be back.
I bet you will.
Y'all
Any
better
members,
watch
any
out.
questions for Ms. Reeves? Thank you for being here. Thank you for your
again,
testimony.
Shirley.
Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, excuse me. We got one more. David Bass. Chair calls David Bass. Bass, if you would please state your name, who you're here on behalf of, and if you're testifying on, for, or against the bill.
Thank you, Chair. My name is David Bass. I'm representing myself, and I support the bill.
Thank you. You may proceed.
I served 25 years in the U.S. Army.
Thank you.
Texas has 1.4 million veterans. I estimate from my work with Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana, and we've been advocating here at the Capitol since 2013. I've spoken to thousands of veterans all over the state of Texas. I go to our veteran service organizations and educate them about medical cannabis. I estimate that 200,000 veterans use cannabis in Texas, primarily for PTSD and chronic pain from injuries and wounds. This is based on current surveys that show between 13 and 18% of Americans admit to using cannabis regularly. So if you extrapolate that to our veterans, that's about 200,000. Texas veterans obtain cannabis from 3 primary sources. Of course, the first is the illicit market. The second is hemp derivatives, Delta 8 and Delta 9. And the third is the compassionate use program. I'm a patient, thanks to all of you, since last year, legally using cannabis for PTSD and chronic pain in the compassionate use program. My estimates, based on talking to thousands of Texas veterans, is that we currently have approximately 10,000 veterans enrolled and actively using compassionate use program medicine. My estimate is 40 to 50,000 veterans are using Delta 8 and Delta 9 as medicine, which leaves us about 150,000 other veterans in the illicit market. Now, I'm going around Texas educating veterans about the compassionate use program. I want them to be legal, but there's obstacles, and you've heard a couple of patients mention those, and Representative Stephanie Click's working hard to resolve these issues. But we're not there yet. And so we have this really large number of veterans still in the illicit market using cannabis for PTSD and pain primarily. And they're at great risk. And so this bill would really help those veterans avoid really adverse consequences in their life. And that's why I support this bill.
Thank you for testifying today, and thank you for your service to our country. Members, any questions for the witness? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Do we have anyone else here that wishes to testify on, for, or against House Bill 218? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Chairman Moody to close on the bill.
Members, thank you. I appreciate your attention to this. This is an issue that we're going to continue to work on. I think it was perfect to have Mr. Bass kind of synthesize why it's important to talk about the criminal law lane of travel when it comes to cannabis policy. There's retail market, there's medical cannabis that he talked about, and then there's the criminal justice lane of this conversation. The reason is because we don't in Texas have a retail market. We have a limited medical market that is broadening out slowly. There are still people that might be in that program that are seeking cannabis through other means, and they're going to be subject to the criminal penalties that exist under our law. And you heard about people that are willing to take that risk because they want to treat themselves. You heard a lot about medical cannabis, even though this is not a medical cannabis bill, but that's the way they intersect, right? People are going to try to treat themselves in one way or another. So how are we, what piece of that puzzle can we put together for them? I think generally that's an important reason why we should pass this. The other is largely young offenders are caught up and saddled with convictions that hinder their growth as Texans in general, right? When it comes to education, job opportunity, housing opportunity, and other things. So we're trying to serve both purposes. As the other parts of this conversation advance, which they're going to, this is a good step to create a floor in this state to treat people more fairly. And with that, I'm happy to answer any of the questions.
Members, any questions for Chairman Moody regarding House Bill 218? Thank you, Chairman Moody.
Thank you. Close.
Committee substitute to HB 218 is withdrawn, and if there's no objection, House Bill 218 will be left pending. Is there any objection? Hearing none, Chair leaves House Bill 218 left pending.